This. I love this. What did you do, Ryan, as people, I think this is a great opportunity. Again, as entrepreneurs, it's about telling our stories, about getting online in all these places. What did you do in order to stop the echo?
So I actually took the audio off of the Zoom and I'm listening to you through the Instagram.
Okay, awesome. So welcome, folks. I see we're live on Facebook. So welcome to BizGrams. My name is Chris-Beth Cowie, the founder of Empowered Facts and the host of BizGrams. I'm super excited because my partner in crime, business partner in crime, is live with us today. No crimes.
Quick question.
Yeah.
So is the team hearing me through the Zoom though? Or are you only hearing me through the Instagram?
I think we got thumbs up for both. I have you right by my speaker, so the folks on Facebook should be able to hear us loud and clear. Danielle, you want to confirm?
Yep, I hear you.
Hear both of us?
Yeah, it sounds good.
Cool. Today is a little unique, okay? So as I mentioned, you might have heard us just talking, are you hearing me? Are you hearing me? And yes, this is our first dual live, so there's a learning process, but we also want to share, how you can do this as well. So as you know, BizGram is all about hearing from entrepreneurs, the dynamic things that they're doing in community to make a positive difference. You have seen this guy before, right? Brian Knight, business mentor, founder of ACBN, and a plethora of other amazing things. The list is forever mounting. I don't know how you do it all. People say this to me, but I don't know how you do it all, okay? So you have to definitely share some of your secrets. But today, Ryan, I'm super excited to have you as a guest on our show to talk to us a little bit about what is happening in the entrepreneurial ecosystem as it relates to, Black founders and the work that the government's doing, the work that they're doing. What's happening?
Yeah, and it's interesting because I'm starting to realize everybody has a voice and that's why I love this platform and so happy that you started BizGrams because there's so many people that needed to get their story out. And I mean, oh my goodness, the internet has been around for how long? People have been shouting into the void for how long? But giving a way for people to tell their stories and then actually people that want to hear those stories, you kind of make that connection. And I feel like that's what BizGrams does. It's people that want to hear about entrepreneurs get to hear the stories. So now I feel like I'm finding my voice with the things I'm observing in the Black business community and the ways that people are talking about supporting us. So the article that I wrote about, I call it the cash propaganda, which is how the governments or people that make announcements for the Black community, or especially the Black business community, which made me start paying attention, who's really benefiting. And so when we say like what's happening in the Black entrepreneurship landscape, there's different loan programs. They have the ecosystem fund that's supposed to be rolling out soon. They have all these different things that they've announced, but what has actually gotten to people's bank accounts? So I use myself as an example. I'm running a business, detailing nights, and hey, COVID knocked us back. We probably 90% of our revenues got hit, and then we had to really pivot and figure out different ways to get back on our feet. And a lot of that was taking advantage of different initiatives, grants, a wage subsidy, what have you. Whatever was out there, I was looking for it and going for it. So now, fast forward, you hear about the Black Entrepreneurship Program that the federal government is announcing. So that was in September. And we were part of some of the consultations before it announced. And I can go deeper into that after, but the announcement came out and said, okay, this looks great. $221 million is going to support Black entrepreneurs. And now it's 9 months later. It's May. So the article was just documenting what has happened between the announcement in September and the announcement on May 31st that they did about the same program. So we're not talking about anything different, the exact same program. And 9 months ago, they talked about they're partnering with the banks. That was the main, it came right out of Prime Minister Trudeau's mouth. This program is a partnership with the banks, and they listed the banks. And now, 9 months later, those banks aren't even at the table. They are going to be in phase 2. So you're wondering what was going on between those 9 months? Because as an entrepreneur, no money has gone into my account. And I know that no money has gone into any Black entrepreneur's account. So we're trying to figure out who actually benefited from the announcements. And so there were 3 press conference style announcements, and all 3 of them, the Liberal government and the ministers and the politicians got to come up and with big smiles and enthusiasm talk about this program for Black entrepreneurs. Meanwhile, Black entrepreneurs are not benefiting from the talk. They're not getting any money into their accounts. And at the last announcement, Minister Ng said it herself, this is not a COVID relief response, but type of funding. This is something different. So now the COVID relief, that's going on a year plus. So from March till now, it's confirmed that there was no specific funding for the Black community, Black business community, and you can't change that. And that's why when I write these articles, it isn't my opinion. It is a fact that they announced it in September. It is now June, mid-June. No money is rolled into Black business bank accounts. And that was the path that they chose. Now we can analyze, was that the right path? Was that the wrong path? It's hard to argue that was the right path because I was talking earlier today with Dr. Vibe on the Morning Vibe and saying how entrepreneurs that we asked to go to do the survey with, that Minister Ng's office asked us to do, we found people that were struggling to get the incentives. We were promised that they would get a voice, they would get to hear, the minister's office would work with them to see, okay, they did qualify for CEBA and they were declined, and they would figure out how to support them. There was 8 entrepreneurs that got that promise, and all 8 of them they submitted their information, and nothing happened with them. We know 2 of them have gone out of business. So it's a small sample size, but that's where we're tangibly in this game. And it's tough for me because an entrepreneur comes to you for support, and you feel like, well, I felt like we actually had a voice and a path of communication, an open line of communication with the government that said that they would help. And then when you find out that they didn't help, it really puts you in a position where you feel powerless. You're like, okay, I thought I had everything that I needed. I thought I did everything that they asked me to do, and we still get ignored. And really, now we're seeing people's livelihoods get affected. When if you didn't tell me that you're going to help, we would have figured out something else. So now people take the survey, they hear about the announcement, and they're waiting for 9 months for support. That is a long time to be really in survival mode. And it almost becomes, is this purposeful? Is this the way that the government wants us to be in this state of survival mode? Instead of what we propose is short-term and long-term solutions. So short-term, we need to get funds out the door that would support entrepreneurs that weren't able to get CEBA or the RRRF, which is the Regional Recovery and Relief Fund. So because the RRRF was put in place to support people that weren't able to get CEBA, but then their guidelines were even more strict than CEBA. So it didn't work. So now we were saying, okay, 2 layers. 2 layers failed. The 3rd layer has to be the catch for those people that didn't make it. And they chose to ignore that and instead partner with the banks and try to reform the bank to treat Black entrepreneurs with equity and equality when they were the problem in the first place. So if they're the problem, reforming the Bank Act and making their perception of Black entrepreneurs less risky, you're talking about people's conditioning. Like you're conditioned to think a certain way. It doesn't just happen overnight. And so now we're expecting the banks, because of George Floyd or whoever died, to completely change their banking process to suit the Black entrepreneurs that are going there and being declined. Case in point, it did not happen. So we have the data. They chose a path. We can analyze that path. That path did not work. And what is their solution? Stay on the same path. Stuff like that, I can't subscribe to.
Hey, Ryan, that was a lot and a lot of great information. So if you're just joining us, thank you so much for being here. Today, we're streaming live to two places, so Facebook as well as an IG Live. And we're joined by Ryan Knight, the founder of the Afro Caribbean Business Network. And he just shared with us, he is running this business, this agency, an organization that is a place where entrepreneurs, come to for support. And, government informations are, government agents coming in and saying, hey, Ryan, let's get some data, let's connect with your people, let's help. And that help is not here, months later. We talked about it from, March to current date, what has happened. And what has happened is that we've had, you mentioned 3 press releases. We've had, documentation that funds are coming down to support entrepreneurs in our community, but we haven't seen that fund yet in our bank account. And one of the things that, really resonated with me as you're talking is that, when COVID happened, many businesses were affected. And what we have seen is, majority of Black-owned businesses are operating in the service space. And as a result, many of them were, forced to close their physical doors if they had it. And then not only that, transitioning into online. And yes, there have been, tools or spaces that we've directed people to, like Digital Main Street, to get help for their business. We have talked to folks about the small business grant that was afforded. All of these things that, yes, has been made available to us, and we've shared that information. But the message that I'm getting from you, Ryan, is that more needs to be done, and more needs to be done quickly, because you mentioned 2 of your 8 are now out of business. What does that mean? The livelihood of that family, where are those entrepreneurs today? And honestly, I think our cry here from Empowered Facts as well is really saying that we want to be agents of change for our community. And I would say we are agents of change for our community. And we are looking to, those that are in control of, the laws, the policies that affect small businesses to really step into this space and say, we want to help. And we know, the traditional ways the banks have gone and looked at our community, the stories are endless. I've shared my story of walking into a bank branch, standing in the business line, waiting to deposit a bank check and being told I was in the wrong line. And I looked around and I'm like, but no, I'm not. I was the only Black person singled out. I think it was an act of racism in that context. And, I think it's, how I felt in that moment. And my story isn't unique, being denied after, you've presented all the documentations and still not being availed the opportunity to gain access to the support. And I think ultimately that is the cry of the entrepreneurs, particularly in the Black community.
And because that experience where they looked at you and made a judgment, and the rest of the people in the line, they didn't make that judgment. And that's where you can quantify, listen, why did you single me out? I'm female and I'm Black. Why wouldn't you think I'm supposed to be in the business line? Probably because maybe they haven't seen a lot of Black females in that line. So they're now conditioned to think, oh, that's probably a single mother of 4 that should be, cashing your Social Security check in their other, like that. These are instinctive things we have. And that's where when we even started ACBN, it was really around how do we change the stereotype of how Black entrepreneur, like a Black person walking down the street, I want to change that. The person seeing a Black person walking down the street, thinking that, oh, that could be an entrepreneur. So that first thought is like, oh, I know so many Black entrepreneurs. I bet you that guy's an entrepreneur too. That to me, and that takes time. And the banks, we're not going to get there where it gets all the way down to their tellers to say every Black person that you see, you can't make snap judgments, especially, and it wasn't even, let's say it was a negative judgment, but it's not a positive one. It's one that asks the story. It's like, oh, ma'am, are you a business owner? Yeah, I'll help you next. Like, there's a whole different perspective that would have changed the entire experience if they treated you like you belong there.